Hello and welcome to Historical World of English, where you'll find the most recent news, entertaining moments, and behind-the-scenes accounts you won't want to miss. Main articles: Geological History of North America, History of Native Americans in the United States, and Pre-Columbian Era. See also Native Americans in the United States. How and when Native Americans first settled the Americas are not known for sure. The prevalent theory holds that people from Eurasia spread southward as early as 30,000 years ago by following game across Beringia, a land bridge that connected Siberia to Alaska today, during the Ice Age. 5. These early settlers, who were referred to as Paleo-Indians, quickly evolved into hundreds of culturally distinct groups. Paleo-Indians. Main article: North America before Columbus arrived. Humans had already established themselves well throughout North America by 10,000 BCE. Paleo-Indians used to hunt mammoths and other Ice Age megafauna, but as they became extinct, they turned to bison for food and later foraged for berries and seeds. Around 8,000 BCE, Paleo-Indians in central Mexico were the first people in the Americas to farm. The knowledge eventually began to spread northward. Corn was grown in the valleys of Arizona and New Mexico by 3000 BCE, followed by primitive irrigation systems and the Hohokams' first villages by 300 BCE. 6. 7. The Clovis culture, which lived from 9100 to 8850 BCE and was one of the earliest cultures in the United States, is primarily identified by the Clovis point, a fluted spear point. The Folsom culture was similar, but is marked by the use of the Folsom point. Na-Dene-speaking people moved in around 8000 BCE and arrived in the Pacific Northwest by 5000 BCE. 8. From there, they moved into the interior by traveling along the Pacific coast. 9. The Oshara tradition people were another group that lived in the archaic Southwest from 5500 BCE to 600 CE. Pueblos and builders. Mound builders and ancestral Puebloans are the main articles. Around 600 BCE, the Adena began constructing massive earthwork mounds. Despite the fact that there are mounds in the United States that predate this culture, they are the earliest mound builders that have been identified. The powerful Hopewell people who traded tools and goods across a large territory absorbed the Adenans into their culture. They carried on the Adena tradition of building mounds and pioneered a trading system known as the Hopewell Exchange System, which extended to the Canadian side of Lake Ontario from the present-day southeast. 10. The Hopewellians had become part of the larger Mississippian culture by 500 CE. The Mississippians were numerous. Their most important city was Cahokia, near modern-day St. Louis, Missouri. The city's population was estimated to be 20,000 at its height in the 12th century, more than London's at the time. The entire city was centered around the Monk's Mound that stood 100 feet, 30 meters tall. Like many other cities and villages of the time, Cahokia relied on hunting, foraging, trading, and agriculture. It also developed a class system that included slaves and human sacrifice that was influenced by Mayan societies to the south. 6. In the southwest, the Anasazi began constructing stone and adobe pueblos around 900 BCE. These apartment-like structures were often built into cliff faces, as seen in the Cliff Palace at Mesa Verde. Some grew to be the size of cities, with Pueblo Bonito along the Chaco River in New Mexico, once consisting of 800 rooms. 6. The Northwest and the Northeast. The Eastern Woodlands and Pacific Northwest Coast Indigenous peoples are the two main categories. The indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest were likely the most affluent Native Americans. Many distinct cultural groups and political entities developed there, but they all shared certain beliefs, traditions, and practices, such as the centrality of salmon as a resource and spiritual symbol. As early as 1000 BCE, permanent villages began to emerge in this region, and these communities celebrated with the gift-giving potlatch feast. Midway through the 15th century, the Iroquois established a confederacy of tribal peoples that included the Oneida, Mohawk, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca in upstate New York, 12, 13, 14. Each tribe was represented in a group of 50 sachem chiefs. The Iroquois were powerful and engaged in war with numerous neighboring tribes and later Europeans. It has been hypothesized that their culture influenced political thinking in the United States government. 14, 15. The Osage, Ka, Ponca, and Omaha people were among the smaller tribes that were driven further west as their territory grew. Hawaiians are natives. Main articles: Ancient Hawaii and the Hawaiian Kingdom. Although the precise date of Hawaii's settlement is debatable, the initial settlement most likely took place between 940 and 1130 CE. Tahitian explorers discovered the region around 1200 CE and began settling it. This marked the beginning of Hawaiian civilization, which remained largely isolated from the rest of the world until the British arrived 600 years later. 17, 18, 19. Europeans under the British explorer James Cook arrived in the Hawaiian Islands in 1778, and within 5 years of contact, European military technology would help Kamehameha I conquer most of the island group and eventually unify the islands for the first time, establishing the Hawaiian Kingdom. 20. Virgin Islands. Main articles: Taino and History of Puerto Rico. The island of Puerto Rico has been settled for at least 4,000 years. Starting with the Ortoiroid culture, successive generations of native migrations arrived, replacing or absorbing local populations. By the year 1000, 1,000 Arawak arrived from South America via the Lesser Antilles. These settlers would eventually become the Taino that the Spanish encountered in 1493. Upon European contact, a native population between 30,000 and 60,000 was likely, led by a single chief called a cacique. Due to the harsh encomienda system and epidemics brought on by diseases from the Old World, colonization resulted in the extermination of the local population. Until the annexation of Puerto Rico by the United States in 1898, it remained part of Spain. 21.